Picture two people. The first one makes $45,000 a year. The second one makes $100,000 a year. If I asked you who's doing better financially, you'd say the second person without even thinking about it. More money means more freedom, right? More security, more options. Except here's the strange part. The person making $100,000 a year is often more stressed about money than the person making $45,000. They're more in debt. They have less saved. And many of them are one missed paycheck away from panic. This isn't a rare case. It's a pattern. And once you understand why it happens, you'll start noticing it everywhere, in your friends, your coworkers, maybe even in yourself. So today we're going to break down the $100,000 salary trap. Not because $100,000 is a bad number, but because of what happens in your brain the moment you start earning it. Most people believe income is the main ingredient in building wealth. The story we're told since childhood goes something like this: study hard, get a good job, earn a bigger paycheck, and life gets easier. Money problems are basically an income problem. Earn more, and the stress disappears. It sounds logical. It even feels true. But if you look at actual people's lives, this belief breaks down constantly. There are teachers making $50,000 a year with healthy savings and no debt stress. And there are marketing managers making $110,000 a year who feel trapped, anxious, and somehow always broke by the time the next paycheck arrives. So if income isn't the deciding factor, what is? Let's slow down and look at what actually happens when someone's income jumps from, say, $50,000 to $100,000. Imagine you've been living a certain way for years. You drive a decent car, you live in a modest apartment, you cook most of your meals at home. Then you get a new job. Your salary doubles. The first few weeks feel incredible. You finally feel like you've made it. But here's where the trap quietly clicks into place. Almost immediately, your brain starts asking a new question. Not how much can I save now, but what can I finally afford? This shift is subtle, but it changes everything. The apartment that felt perfectly fine last month suddenly feels small. The car that worked great now feels embarrassing next to your new coworkers' cars. Restaurants you used to save for now feel like something you deserve every week. This is called lifestyle inflation, and it's one of the most quietly destructive forces in personal finance. Your spending rises to match your income almost automatically, often without you consciously deciding it should. Think of your financial life like a water tank with a hose pouring in and a drain letting water out. When you earn more, the hose pours in faster. But if the drain you're spending opens up just as fast, the water level in the tank never actually rises. You're moving more money, but you're not keeping more of it. This is the core mechanic of the $100,000 trap. Income increased, wealth didn't. Here's where the psychology gets interesting. Our spending habits aren't really driven by what we can afford. They're driven by comparison. There's a concept in behavioral psychology called the reference point. Your brain doesn't judge your financial situation in isolation. It judges it relative to a baseline, usually the people around you, or the version of yourself you remember from a few months ago. When you were earning $50,000, your reference point for doing fine was based on that life. The moment your income jumps, your brain quietly resets that reference point upward. Suddenly, $100,000 doesn't feel like a lot. It feels like the new normal, and normal never feels exciting enough to save aggressively for. This is the same reason why a person who wins the lottery often ends up broke within a few years. The number changed, but the psychology underneath it didn't. There's also something psychologists call hedonic adaptation. It means that any improvement in your life, a raise, a new car, a nicer apartment, gives you a short burst of happiness, and then your brain adjusts and treats it as the new baseline. The upgraded life starts to feel ordinary, and ordinary doesn't feel like enough, so you look for the next upgrade, and the cycle repeats. This is why people earning six figures can still feel like they're falling behind. It's not about the number on their paycheck. It's about a treadmill that keeps moving the goalpost every time they take a step forward. There's another layer to this that almost nobody talks about: identity spending. When your income increases, especially into a number like $100,000, something shifts in how you see yourself. You start to feel like a $100,000 person. And $100,000 people, in your mind, don't drive 10-year-old cars. They don't shop at discount grocery stores. They don't share apartments with 3 roommates. So you start making decisions not based on what makes financial sense, but based on what feels consistent with this new identity. You're not just buying a nicer car. You're buying a costume that matches the character you think you're supposed to be playing now. This is incredibly common, and incredibly dangerous, because identity-based spending feels emotionally justified even when it's financially reckless. It doesn't feel like overspending. It feels like becoming who you're supposed to be. Here's the deeper truth hiding underneath all of this. Wealth isn't created by how much money flows through your hands. It's created by the gap between what you earn and what you keep. Two people can both earn $100,000 a year. One of them keeps 5% of it. The other keeps 30%. Over 10 years, these two people will be living in completely different financial realities, even though their paychecks looked identical the entire time. This is why a teacher earning $50,000 with a 20% savings rate can build more long-term wealth than a manager earning $100,000 with a 2% savings rate. It's not about the size of the income. It's about the size of the gap. Think of your income like a river. A wide river isn't automatically valuable. What matters is whether you're building a reservoir to capture some of that water, or letting all of it rush straight out to the ocean. A wider river with no reservoir is just a faster way to lose water. This is the single biggest myth in personal finance, that earning more automatically solves money stress. In reality, earning more without awareness simply increases the speed at which money moves through your life. The stress doesn't disappear. It just gets a bigger budget. So what should you actually do with this information? The first step is to separate the moment your income increases from the moment your spending increases. When you get a raise or a new job with a higher salary, give yourself a short window, even just 30 days, before you upgrade anything. Don't move apartments immediately. Don't finance a new car the week your new paycheck hits. Let the excitement settle before you let it shape your decisions. The second step is to automate the gap. Instead of trying to save whatever is left over at the end of the month, which is almost always close to nothing, set up automatic transfers the moment your paycheck arrives. Pay your future self first, then live on what remains. This single habit does more for long-term wealth than almost any other financial trick people chase. The third step is to track your savings rate, not just your income. Most people obsess over how much they earn and almost never calculate what percentage of it they actually keep. This number, your savings rate, is a far better predictor of your future financial freedom than your salary will ever be. And the fourth step is to get honest about identity spending. Ask yourself, when you're about to make a bigger purchase, whether you're buying it because it solves a real problem in your life, or because it makes you feel like the version of yourself you're trying to become. There's nothing wrong with enjoying a higher income. The danger is spending in a way that's driven by image instead of intention. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people never sit with. More money does not automatically create more freedom. It only removes one obstacle while quietly creating new ones, dressed up as comfort, identity, and reward. The $100,000 salary trap isn't really about the number $100,000 at all. It's about what happens in your mind the moment your life appears to get easier. Your brain doesn't ask, how do I build wealth now? It asks, what can I finally enjoy? And if you're not paying attention, that single question can quietly consume every extra dollar you ever earn. The people who actually build wealth aren't always the highest earners. They're the ones who learned to notice that question before it took over, and chose, again and again, to widen the gap instead of widening their lifestyle. So the next time your income goes up, ask yourself one simple question before you spend a single extra dollar. Am I upgrading my life, or am I just feeding a treadmill that will never let me feel finished? Because in the end, it's not how much you make that decides your future. It's how much of it you actually get to keep.